open or under control. Iran says Hormuz is completely open, but inside the country, backlash erupts. Calls to dismiss the government as the military steps in to tighten rules. So is this stability or a power struggle playing out in public? Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, said the Strait of Hormuz was completely open for commercial shipping during the ceasefire. The statement was meant to signal stability. Instead, it triggered immediate backlash inside Iran. In a post on X, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed that maritime transit would continue during the ceasefire period.
In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire, on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
US President Donald Trump said that Iran will never close the Strait of Hormuz again. Oil flows, markets drop, but control stays tight. In the world's most vital choke point, calm feels conditional. So is Hormuz truly open, or just operating under new ownership? Ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire, on the coordinated route, as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Social media reactions were sharply critical. Some accused the government of weakening pressure on the United States. Others went further, calling it a betrayal and demanding the dismissal of the government. Dismiss the Pezeshkian government and Araghchi, if these rumors are true. The government's betrayal is clear and pure. One post questioned whether Araghchi understood how much blood has been spilled to build leverage against the enemy. Another called for the removal of the administration if the reports were true. The criticism was not limited to Araghchi. It extended to the broader political leadership, including figures like Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. The reaction forced a rapid shift in messaging. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps moved quickly to clarify that the strait was not open without restrictions.
Movements will only be permitted with the permission of the IRGC Navy.
State-linked media, including Tasnim, began emphasizing conditions. Only commercial vessels would be allowed. Military ships were excluded. All transit would require coordination with Iranian forces and follow designated routes.
Only commercial ships can pass. Military vessels are prohibited. Ships must go through a route designated by Iran. The passage of ships must be coordinated with the Iranian forces responsible for this passage.
The revised messaging made it clear that control remained with Iran's military, not with a blanket diplomatic opening. The sequence exposed a disconnect. Araghchi's statement suggested openness. The military response reasserted control. At the same time, global markets reacted to the initial signal. Oil prices dropped sharply following the announcement. But inside Iran, the focus was different. The issue was not economic impact. It was strategic messaging. The Strait of Hormuz is seen as a key point of leverage. Any suggestion of easing that pressure, especially in public, draws scrutiny. What followed was a rapid correction. A diplomatic statement triggered domestic backlash. That backlash forced a harder line. And within hours, Iran's position shifted from completely open to tightly controlled access. Iran has rejected the idea of a temporary ceasefire, signaling a hardened position as regional tensions continue despite ongoing diplomatic efforts. Speaking at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh made it clear that Tehran is pushing for a comprehensive settlement, not a pause in fighting.
Any ceasefire must cover all fronts from Lebanon to the Red Sea. We are not accepting any temporary ceasefire. The cycle of conflict should end once and for all.
Khatibzadeh added that Pakistan remains actively engaged in mediation efforts aimed at achieving a broader regional agreement, even as negotiations face repeated setbacks. On the strategic front, Tehran signaled it would keep the Strait of Hormuz open, but hinted at possible new security arrangements governing maritime transit. However, messaging from Iran's religious leadership suggests a far more confrontational outlook. In Ahvaz, senior cleric Mohammad Nabi Mousavi Fard warned that the conflict with the United States is not nearing an end, but evolving.
The war with the US is not something that ends and will take different forms over time. The smallest mistake by the enemy will be seen as a violation of the ceasefire. Even a combined effort by global powers would not defeat what he described as the Front of Islam.
The statement underscores a broader narrative within Iran's leadership, that the confrontation has entered a prolonged multi-domain phase. Meanwhile in Tehran, interim Friday prayer leader Ahmad Khatami issued a stark warning against any future strikes while urging public vigilance during the fragile ceasefire.
No one will dare attack Iran anymore. They may attack, but it will not lead anywhere, and this revolution will endure. We must even be pessimistic about the enemy's smiles, especially our enemy named Trump, who is a symbol of lies. The importance of public support and unity during the truce, saying people should remain present and trust in leadership. People will not accept negotiations with humiliation.
The remarks reflect a dual-track posture, diplomatic engagement on one hand and ideological resistance on the other. While ceasefire frameworks remain under discussion, Tehran's position suggests any deal must extend beyond immediate hostilities to address the broader regional conflict architecture. As diplomacy struggles to keep pace with escalation, Iran's red line is now clear. No temporary fixes, only a decisive end. Whether that demand leads to negotiation or further confrontation remains the defining question. Washington called it diplomacy. Tehran, on the other hand, calls it an ultimatum. As the world absorbed the news of a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, a senior Iranian military source has claimed that Iran had come repeatedly close to resuming military operations during the weeks of negotiations, with missile launch platforms prepared and ready to fire. According to the source, Iran stood down on multiple occasions after receiving promises about the timing of a ceasefire in Lebanon, promises that were subsequently broken.
The enemy, as usual, broke its commitments and continued its aggression against Lebanon. With much follow-up and pressure from Iran, a ceasefire in Lebanon is approved as of tonight.
The source said it was only after Iran set a final deadline on the night of April 16th that movement towards a truce became real. In Tehran's telling, it was not American pressure on Hezbollah, but Iranian military pressure on Washington that forced Israeli compliance. That account sits squarely at odds with how US President Trump presented the ceasefire, crediting US diplomacy for getting the sides to agree. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf reinforced Tehran's position in a phone call with Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri, telling him that a ceasefire in Lebanon mattered to Iran as much as the one on Iranian soil. The Iranian embassy in Beirut had said as much the day before, describing Lebanon as, in its words, the soul of Iran. Ghalibaf also posted on X, linking the truce to what he called the unity of the axis of resistance.
As I said last night as well, the ceasefire was nothing but a result of Hezbollah's steadfastness and the unity of the axis of resistance. And we will deal with this ceasefire with caution, and we will remain together until the full realization of victory. I thank the mediating efforts of the State of Pakistan and General Asim Munir for endorsing this ceasefire. We are true to our pledge.
Iran had been operating under a ceasefire for all or none position, tying any de-escalation in Lebanon to broader regional guarantees, with the Strait of Hormuz at the center of those conditions. Tehran also warned Washington it would be held responsible if Netanyahu moved to undermine any agreement. The guns have stopped for now. Who actually stopped them remains contested. The Israel Defense Forces says it carried out a rapid, high-intensity strike on alleged Hezbollah infrastructure in southern Lebanon, targeting dozens of sites within seconds. Footage released by the military shows multiple buildings in the Nata neighborhood engulfed in flames before collapsing, as airstrikes hit what Israel described as operational infrastructure. According to the IDF, around 70 targets were struck in just 1 minute during the operation, with weapons also seized. However, local media and Lebanese sources reported that the strikes impacted residential areas near Bint Jbeil Governmental Hospital, raising concerns about civilian safety. Separately, the National News Agency reported that Israeli airstrikes destroyed the Kazmieh Bridge over the Litani River, described as the last link between southern Lebanon and the rest of the country.
Enemy aircraft carried out 2 consecutive strikes on the Kazmieh Bridge, the last bridge between the Tyre and Sidon regions, completely destroying it.
Lebanese officials told Reuters the strike shattered the bridge, leaving no possibility of repair and further isolating the south. Lebanon's health ministry, cited by Arabic media, reported at least 11 fatalities, including women and children, along with multiple injuries from recent strikes. The escalation comes despite a fragile ceasefire framework involving the US, Israel, and Iran, though its applicability to Lebanon remains disputed. Diplomatic efforts continue in parallel. Donald Trump announced potential direct talks between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun.
Trying to get a little breathing room between Israel and Lebanon. It has been a long time since the 2 leaders have spoken, like 34 years. It will happen tomorrow. Nice.
While Trump did not explicitly name the 2 participants in the slated conversation, it is assumed that he was referring to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Aoun. Security Cabinet member and Innovation, Science and Technology Minister Gila Gamliel told Army Radio on Thursday morning that Netanyahu and Aoun will hold direct talks. But Lebanese officials, cited by Agence France Presse and Reuters, said they had no knowledge of such talks, highlighting ongoing diplomatic uncertainty. According to Press TV, Aoun has told US Secretary of State Marco Rubio that he would not be speaking with Netanyahu. With high-intensity strikes, collapsing infrastructure, and uncertain diplomacy unfolding simultaneously, the Lebanon front is entering a volatile phase, where escalation on the ground may outpace efforts to contain it at the negotiating table.